We are live. Hello and welcome to Product Lessons, a podcast channel where we talk to product leaders from all over the world and learn from them how they build and manage world class software products. So, since my conversations on this podcast are often deep and long, you can also listen to them in Spotify. Just go to Spotify and search for Product Lessons. I just realized that there is a glitch on my audio. Let me quickly set that up. Looks good. All right. So today I'm thrilled to have with me Abhimanyu Dasgupta, founder of UNRAVEL, an exciting and radically different travel discovery platform. I mean, I'm used to a lot of travel platforms, but this one is unique, and that's the reason I'm also a small angel investor into the company. And I thought, why not learn from their experience through this podcast and share it with you all. So in this conversation we are going to cover a lot of topics. We could go all the way for 2 hours, if everyone agrees, talking
All
about
day.
all day, talking about how the Unravel idea germinated, how was it validated, how did the founding team come together, when did they become serious about jumping into this, letting go of their jobs. We talk about the initial seed capital, seed funding later. We talk about equity split, mentors, advisors. What are the psychological pressures of navigating uncertainty? What were the opportunities? What were the road bumps that they faced? And also on the product side, right? So, how did the development go? Metrics, design team. So, this is going to be a deep dive on their entrepreneurial journey till date. So, if you do not want to sit in front of YouTube and watch, you could also take a stroll out and watch this on Spotify as well, as I said. So with that, let's welcome Abhimanyu. Hi Abhimanyu, welcome to Product Lessons. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Ravi. Thank you. Real privilege having you here. And thank you for joining us on the journey of Unravel.
Yeah, same here. I was quite excited, and then we realized Abhimanyu is a very good friend of a very good friend of mine. I mean, this was accidental. Okay, this was even before I made a decision to invest in Unravel. So Abhimanyu, why don't you tell a bit about yourself, just for the audience to get a context? Where are you from? What were your how has your career turned so far, and before you jumped into Unravel?
Sure, Ravi. Thank you. Um, I'll start from education. I was born and brought up in Hyderabad, and I had a love for maths from the very early stages. I think my father sort of drilled that into me. And I went to study in this place called the Indian Statistical Institute. Uh, and when I went there, I was convinced that I was one of the maths geniuses in the country, only to discover on day one that everybody around me was a nerd. Everyone around me was like a genius themselves. So that brought me right back down to ground level. But all said and done, ISI was one of the most fascinating phases of my life. There were very few people. ISI only accepts 20 people per batch,
Wow.
and every one of them are exceptionally bright. They're people who are passionate about the subject rather than looking to kick off a career in something in the future. It's just people who are just crazy about numbers themselves. So anyway, it started there. I met Vijay, who was my senior, who actually ragged me in my first week. Uh,
Thank
so
you.
what's that?
He ragged you, is it?
He did try and drag me, and then there were just too many synergies or common loves, starting with music to cricket to travel, and we just gelled so strongly that from then we just became really close friends. I still look at him as a senior, of course, but we gelled very 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 well from then. So that was ISI. And then back in those days, Ravi, there was a field called, I mean, there still is, actuarial science, which was very, very lucrative for people from a maths and stats background, because every exam you clear, your CTC actually went up by a bit. So you're not
Wow.
just you were not just restricted by your performance in the company. There was another way of actually increasing your CTC. So it was very logical for me to follow that path. I started at Deloitte Consulting. We were a three-member team of advanced quantitative services. Um, but the work we did was predominantly predictive modeling for pricing, fraud, claims management, these kinds of things. And then 2 3 years down the line, we realized there was a lot more scope. There was this whole data science field emerging, with machine learning becoming mainstream. So we expanded big time. We produced solutions using machine learning for a lot of other clients as well, not just insurance. And over a decade, I think we grew that practice from 3 people to about 100 people. This was 2018 or so. There were lots of milestones in between. I thoroughly enjoyed my journey, traveled a lot in between, as you can expect in a typical consulting role. And then, Vijay comes to me and seeds this idea of Unravel in 2020, late 2020. And that's how Unravel was, first conceptualized. But yeah,
And you also earned the reputation of being one of the well-known data scientists in the country, right? You were listed in the top 10. Could you shed some light there?
sure. I feel a little embarrassed talking about it, so I try to leave that out. But thank you for bringing it up. So in Deloitte, we also released a couple of patents around the solutions we were building for, especially claims management and fraud detection in insurance. One of them was around using injury based. So in the US, for all the claims that you make, what we have in India is called Medicare. In the US, the equivalent of that is workers' compensation.
Mhm.
And we were building solutions which used their injuries ICD-9 codes to actually segment them in a more fair but accurate way to predict losses for the future.
But
And nobody had tried this before, partially because the idea didn't strike people, but also because insurance as an industry is very highly regulated. And so we had to run some prototypes to try and convince the regulators that this worked and it's accurate, and then launched a patent. And the moment the patent was filed, as you'd expect, there was a stream of new customers, both large and medium scale insurance players coming in and trying to. So I had a big role to play in that, and it was because of my contributions there, and I brought that to outside the US as well, to a lot of insurance clients. That, as well as other contributions, meant that as early as 2016, I think it was, when uh, they recognized me among the top 10 data scientists in India. So yeah.
lovely. So, did your CTC go up soon after that? Like, did your market value just blew over?
I uh, I wish I was smart enough to cash in on that, Ravi, back then. I don't think I was, but
Okay,
no, I know that it instantly got more people speaking to me. So in a consulting role, and by 2016, I was already leading the practice.
nice.
So it made it easier to have conversations with newer clients. I can say that much.
Got it. So before you unravel what unravel is, I have this very impressive pitch video of yours, which I would like to play for the audience, and then we can take it
Sure.
from there. All right. So share screen. All right. So this is the one that caught my attention, and a lot of people here in the investment community here. So let's play.
Have you heard about Neil's Yard in London? Probably not, but it's become the most popular tourist spot among millennials and Gen Z. Why? Because 90% of them travel to places they've seen on a TikTok or an Instagram video. In fact, TikTok overtook Google for the first time ever as the most visited domain in the world in 2021, underlining why videos are the most preferred format of discovery today. Hi, I'm Abhi, co founder of Unravel, the world's first smart travel app that leverages AI based personalization and TikTok style short form videos that are compulsively snackable commercials of the world's most amazing experiences, just like Neil's Yard. Finally, a travel discovery platform that millennials and Gen Zs can relate to. Our platform uses AI to bring together the three core networks of travel so that everyone wins. Firstly, the traveler, because we're all inspired by stunning videos and want our vacations to look like that cool dude who just went there, right? Secondly, the content creators, because they earn royalties from bookings made on Unravel that they inspire, thereby creating a living out of the platform. And finally, the hotels, the vacation homes, the activity providers who want to give their customers a once in a lifetime experience that they can go tell their friends about. Unravel works because it's built by a team of award winning designers and AI professionals who have solved discovery problems for travel giants like Emirates, Amex, Marriott, and many others. We launched our beta iOS app in December 21 and got instantly featured on the App Store's homepage for 3 straight months. We've got 6,000 users today with a 30-day retention rate of 52%, which is higher than even gaming apps and comparable to news apps. And all of that without spending any money on marketing. Why? Because we've got 200,000 followers of our own on our own social media channels who continuously make their way in. We're looking for investor partners in our next round of fundraising. So come join us in this adventure. I promise a wild ride.
So that was a very good one. I've interviewed the founder of Kickstarter, and
Du
Kickstarter.
wartest sehnlichst auf den Feierabend und darauf, endlich nach Hause zu.
Um, Jan Stickler is the founder of Kickstarter. He was one of my guests. I had the privilege to talk to him, and yeah, so they would often make for crowdsourcing such videos. So it was a good one. My point is, Abhimanyu, when Vijay got in touch with you, did you have a conversation with him? How was the conversation then? Why was he so bullish about this idea, and what led him to ask you and others to join in this journey?
Yeah, it was the start of the pandemic, and I remember. So Vijay and I, because Vijay is married to my classmate as well. So we've been thick friends like over the years. We travel a lot together, and very often the way travel starts, Ravi, as I'm sure in your case as well, right? It's the wives who sort of pick out, uh, you know, uh, really gorgeous, stunning locations from social media and pass them on to you and say, here's where we want to go next. And 10-day trip. I need to do this exact thing, and it has to have a photo, and then so that after the trip, we should be able to put these up on Instagram.
Right.
My wife is, quite an avid traveler as well. So Vijay's original idea was he had recently sold a project to a couple of big clients, including, if I can name them, American Express, where he sort of he shared screen and showed me a demo of the product. And it was a very simple, interactive, conversational AI bot which asked you a simple set of questions and went ahead to book your entire vacation. And I was dabbling with conversational AI as well. I was building something for a large US telecom provider, but a very different use case. Vijay's use case was Amex has this whole luxury concierge, which their service is outstanding, right? I mean, if you think about travel concierges across the globe, Amex is by far the best. He was building this completely automated concierge for them.
What
And
what do you mean by concierge? Maybe.
so a
I
concierge
mean, I
is where,
understand concierge in a physical hotel space, but
yeah.
when you talk about Amex digital space, what does a concierge mean?
So in the digital space, imagine there's a simple chat window, right? Most websites have it. Most apps have it today. Um, the difference here is using a combination of NLP led conversations as well as some visuals. This chat would serve as a digital concierge for you if you
Got
were,
it.
let's say, an Amex Black customer or an Amex Elite customer. And so the chat itself, he showed me one visual prototype, and he showed me that they just as you call up Amex and they ask you a bunch of very nice questions to make you comfortable, then gradually take you into, okay, so where are you planning to go? Where are you planning to stay? What would you like to do over there? And then I see that in the past you've been here and done this. Would you like something similar? So it's not a first time conversation. It's a
Right.
conversation with someone who seems to know you pretty well. So his questions as well as his recommendations about where to stay, what to do, are inspired by what you've done before,
Got
right?
it.
So it's looking at your data in the back end. It's trying to pull out it's very honestly not very difficult to do. It's pulling out that data, quickly reading what your interest is, and recommending 3 4 ideas, not more than that, just 3 4. The moment it goes beyond 5 or 6, it becomes a challenge for you as a user to pick the right one. So it's just 3 4 recommendations, knowing very well that one of those three will get selected. And the chat ends when your whole trip has been planned out and booked out. Everything is happening at the back end. So he said, this is 20% of what I want to do. But the 100% of this, I cannot build into a B2B. The 100% of this needs to be out there for everyone to use. Why not, right? I mean, why build something for 1 million people when you can build the same thing for 1 billion people and let everyone use it? Yes, it'll take time. It'll take a string of partnerships because we need to get the data. We need to get, but I can completely foresee this as being a full B2C product. Um, I, at that stage, told him, and this is after our usual casual chats, I told him, yeah, seems interesting, etc. But B2C startups. I had never even switched jobs before that. So for me, the possibility of quitting your job and starting new was alien at that stage. But he structured out the next 3 months very, very well and made it easier for me as well as three others. We went in and found Sunny, we found Vashishta, we found Deva, we found Mridula, and these were all within our networks. He made it very easy for us in a very structured way to get to the prototype stage over a period of 3 months. So we would sit every weekend, and we would firstly draw out what the idea should be. There's a ton of material available on the internet to build customer journey maps, and we used all of those. We tried to use the best of those. We spoke to a lot of previous startup founders, and every weekend we would basically sit and inch ahead in our journey. And by the end of 3 months, I remember this was between May 2020 to August 2020, we built out a prototype of what Unravel should look like in an app format. And we had already lined up 15 of our network people. So I had worked with people at Marriott and Delta Airlines. He had worked with Amex, and he had friends in the industry. So we lined up these people. We set up calls with them. We asked them to be as candid as possible and not our network people, and give us candid feedback. And somewhere, Ravi, I think along the journey, it was very easy for Sunny, Vashishta, me to take that jump because we had already become half invested in it, right? So mentally or psychologically, with every passing day, we were becoming convinced about the idea ourselves. So that's how it began. That's how it started.
But so did you have the business model figured out, like how you are going to make money? I mean, you created the prototype, good, but did you also sketch out how you would be able to? Did you have the entire business model ready then, or were you aware on in bits and pieces on where it would be?
We were pretty certain of the business model, I think, 2 months down the road of building out the prototype. And it was for a couple of reasons, and I'll hit the first one first. The first is travel itself, pre-COVID, was a $1.5 trillion industry, and post-COVID, digital travel. Sorry, not even travel. Travel itself is 8 or 9 trillion, but just digital travel alone is 1.5 trillion. This is 2019 and early 2020. Uh, During COVID, uh, it basically came down to half. And everyone we studied, including Booking.com, including Expedia, every single annual statement we studied effectively told us that it had come down to half. Now, this would mean uh, a few things. One is business wise, opportunity wise, it would take 3-4 years for the industry to reach the 1.5 trillion again. The second was that, and this is the more important one, because of COVID, the industry supply would come down to at least half. But we bet on the fact that eventually COVID would sort of, fade off. And overnight, which is happening this year actually, Ravi, where travel is booming again. There's this whole concept of hashtag revenge travel, right? Everyone's traveling. So the demand would go up to what it was naturally because, humans still want to travel. If anything, they want to travel even more. So the demand went up and the supply had halved. So there's practically a void of half the industry not being there when the demand goes up again. So that was the second big reason. And then, of course, we tried to analyze where the experts were saying the industry would go for 5 years down the line. Opportunity-wise, it was a no-brainer. Coming to the business model, um, yes, we recognize an opportunity in terms of bookings, but the kind of idea we were investing in was we wanted actually this whole platform to self-serve itself because we were thinking of the inspiration for videos. Most people, all of us travel today because we see this amazing video on TikTok or Instagram. We expected these videos to come from travelers themselves, and especially travelers who travel a lot, find those hidden gems and put them on social media. The other layer is the users. They're watching these videos and trying to relive those moments for their own vacations. So, because we wanted a platform that was two-way, we recognized that eventually the business would be run not with us making bookings on the platform, but with us enabling bookings, enabling newer places through ads from tourism boards or hotels who wanted to position themselves a little more strongly. So that was the model. That is actually the model we are banking on, the ad spend one. It's not technically rocket science once you have traffic. Most social media platforms do that.
Did you have any existing player who was at least near to how you were imagining Unravel to be?
Existing player in video, no, because nobody. I think the whole idea of video-led travel inspiration was just starting to take shape. TikTok suddenly boomed. Instagram was always there, but Instagram suddenly invested in Instagram Reels. But before that, Instagram was all images, right? So video-led inspiration, there was nobody. And but image-led inspiration, there were plenty of them. I think we took initial inspiration, of course, from the bigger players, the TikToks and the Pinterest. We love Pinterest. We're big fans of Pinterest. We think it's a highly underrated app. So initial inspiration for Pinterest, but we also found a couple of others like Stellar and Pluto. We have a list of Sunny, who's our chief product officer, has a list of 85 startups, both in the video and travel space that we follow very closely and we try to learn from. Stellar and Pluto were right up there because they were trying to evangelize the concept of video-led inspiration from creators as well. They were doing it slightly differently, though. They were not taking you, they were just feeding you inspiration and leaving it there. We wanted to make it wholesome, meaning if you watch a video and if you're excited, if you're, inspired at that moment, you want to act at that moment. That's what the generation today wants to do. So we wanted to take it all the way up to booking, as well as make the whole travel, the vacation real.
Got it. So you said 85 startups already there, which your CPO made a list of.
Yep.
Um, the thing is, when you're making a life decision, right? So where you want to, like, if you want to go all in, that means you're committing your next, say, 5-10 years into this idea. Um, what is the framework that you use? Is this something, I'm sure, because there are so many people impacted, your family is impacted, you need to convince your wife, and if you're an Indian, you need to convince your parents if this
Oh
is the
yeah.
right thing on. So what clicked for you to make this massive life decision? Because as you said, you had not ever changed your jobs before, and this is not about changing jobs, but about starting something from fresh. What was that one thing that led you to believe this?
Um, I think you've covered a part of it, Ravi. Firstly, very, very valid question.
Mm,
Because, and I'll add in-laws as well, in-laws and extended family to this list as well.
yeah, of course.
So, so I'm sitting there right now, so I have to be honest. So, first and foremost, I needed to be convinced. If I wasn't convinced, 100% obsessed with the idea, even, then I didn't want to put up a face or put up a case in front of them. So I think I was convinced 2 months into trying to build a prototype. I've usually been risk averse. Uh, 2 months into the prototype, I was convinced. Only then did I broach the subject with them.
You were
Uh,
convinced about what? About the potential of this?
I was convinced about me wanting to quit everything else and do this. Um, I was convinced about the idea, whether I wanted to jump in and quit my, uh, I think the word is decade long social capital in my previous company and my network of clients, but I wanted to even put all of that behind and jump into this. Took me 2 months, 2 months to sort of be 100% sure whether I wanted to jump into this, because I'd also seen a lot of people do this part time over weekends, and but
Yeah, the
this was not
entire COVID phase resulted in a side gig economy.
in a side. Exactly, and yeah, I know, a whole other topic, right, Ravi? I mean, that's a challenge for some of us in these bigger organizations where everyone's doing that. But anyway, so I didn't want to spend like half my time doing this or 20% of my time doing this. I wanted to spend 100% of my time doing this. That conviction came, I think, in July of 2020, 2 months into trying to build this out. The second layer was the people. I've not mentioned him yet, but one of the big inspirations here was my batchmate from ISI, Prashant, who was eventually our first seed investor. You met him on that one call, I think. Um, and by then, Prashant had taken the leap himself and set up a hugely successful high frequency trading firm. And he played a big role in convincing me as well. The second layer was the team, the people. Were these people? I forget the idea. The idea is, in its own ways, uh, something you believe, you want to bet on, etc. But is this the core of people I want to, spend 100% of my day with? Can I add value to this team, and can we together make A plus B square happen? I think the people was the most important part. Secondly, when I was convinced about these two, then I went ahead and made the proposition. And of course, like I would to any client, I created a business case. I showed them the future. I projected future financials. I projected the role and why it was mentally far more satisfying. I think COVID scenario made it easier, because previously they had seen me go about, travel so much, interact with people, that now when I was telling them I am personally happier doing this, it required less convincing. I'm sure 1 or 2 years earlier, if I had tried to convince them, it would have been a tougher job. But during COVID, all of us became sensitive to people's innermost desires, right? What people really want to do. And it became easier to convince them. So, wasn't easy. Lots of conversations, lots of pros and cons. And my wife, incidentally, was also in the same company. That's where I met her. But it probably helped that she was going through some similar feelings about her own career as well. So that made it easier. And similar, excuse me, similar. I'm sure I can speak for the others. Vijay, Sunny, Vashishta, I can speak for them. I know that as we went along during the prototype over those weekends, I think all of us started to sense that we loved working with each other. And I think it was very important to go through that realization before taking a leap of faith like this.
Got
So
it.
I don't know if that fully answers your question.
Yeah,
Hopefully
that
it
answers the
throws light.
question. The very important, the crux of this decision is financial planning, right? So you have a safe
Yeah.
job. Did you like? I do not know. Primarily, Indians, especially, soon after they have a job, they have a house loan. There are these responsibilities. People have kids. How did you
Yeah.
plan your financials? Maybe shed some light there.
To be fair, Ravi, I know you are an expert, and in this space, my wife is the expert. So she does all of it, and she ensured it. I had a baby coming. Thankfully, the loans were minimal. I gave myself, and it wasn't as if I think in my case it was a little easier because I'd worked for so long and I had a few savings. My wife had a few savings. Even though we had a baby along the way, we were well settled here in Gurgaon. We had a house. My parents were living with me. Her parents were an hour away. So everything was actually the support system was sort of already there in my own case. I didn't really have to strive to put that in place before taking a leap like this. Financially speaking, it was a simple calculation of looking at what would be my medium term requirements. By medium term, I mean that I am not going to compromise on the quality of life my family has.
Hmm.
I'm not going to compromise on the requirements that my baby has in the first, at least, say, a year or two. What does that add up to? What does it mean in terms of an expense over the next 2-3 years? It's a very simple calculation. It didn't take us long to figure it out. And that was the financial side of things. And of course, we had savings, and I had saved up a little in Hyderabad as well, which was where I grew up. And push comes to shove, there is that there is that saving, there's that property as well. So with a medium term wealth planned out, and a couple of sort of just in case we need something scenarios, a couple of such things to help out, it was an easier decision. But if you're asking me how long I calculated for this to sort of be okay without a steady job, I was looking at a time period of 3 to 4 years, not beyond that, admittedly. I would advise very strongly that anyone in my age doing the same should probably forecast the same, because and you'd be the right person, Ravi, to shed light on this. Startups, any startup, especially a B2C startup, I think needs to have that run. We cannot expect it to take off, and I know there are counter examples last year in the Indian startup ecosystem, but I think you need to give yourselves 3 to 4 years at least before knowing that whether this is going to work, not work, whatever it is. But that's a minimum time frame, and persistency is the key.
Did you have capital to invest into this into the startup initially? Like, did you pull in money, or how did it work? I know you are in angel round now, but
Yeah,
the first capital, seed capital.
the seed capital came largely from uh, Prashant and Vijay, and Prashant was already doing amazingly well with Quantbox, and he was bullish on an idea that needed to be a $10 billion idea, uh, not $100 million idea. And we're looking many years into the future, of course. So the large part of the seed capital came from him, and he wanted to be very clear that this is, I'm happy to ensure that you go for a good 18-month runway, 18 to 2 year runway at least, at the very least, with this. And I'm completely behind, first and foremost, you guys, your team, and secondly, the idea itself. So should should there be a situation where we're facing a crunch no matter what, then I'm going to come in, and that's how Prashant became our co-founder as well, because a lot of the uh, ideas as well, both in the ideation stage and the prototyping stage, Prashant was a huge part of it. And during the execution, when we were building out the infrastructure, because that's one of his strengths. That's one of the strengths on which Quantbox also works, the low latency nature of it. He had a big role to play. So that seed capital originally came from him. Another principle we adopted, Ravi, in our very early stages is we don't want to be a company that is sort of worried about raising money in our product development stage, in our execution stage. We wanted to be as thorough and as polished as possible. You'll see that in the product we've built, as possible, and not make something in haste and then go to a VC, try to raise some money. We wanted to test it out. We went through internally. I think we went through 5 variations of the product before making it public earlier this year. And it's not because we've got it right the first time. I don't think anybody does. We went through multiple iterations, tested it out with a private set of beta testers, alpha testers, beta testers, made modifications, and Prashant gave us the assurance that while you're doing this, I don't want you to be thinking about trying to raise capital, and we stuck to that. So that was the
So,
initial thought process.
so the initial seed capital was spent on what? So when you said 18 months runway, the runway is spent on what?
So everything from bringing the team together. When we started prototyping it, we were 5 people. And these 5 people jumped on board after the prototype was validated. And we sort of were convinced. We were all, like I was telling you, we were all convinced about the idea. We validated it with a few, industry experts, as well as what we potentially foresaw as socially conscious travelers who would use a product like this. Initial seed capital, early days, getting the team together, so hiring, a lot of recruitment. We had networks of people in both design, developer, but mostly the data community, because all of us came from a background in data science. It wasn't easy to convince people, as you can imagine. It was by far one of the biggest hurdles uh, to convince people to join us. So I think we spent enough time to ensure that people who were taking the jump like us were A, financially secure, and B, highly engaged even before they joined us. We spent a lot of time on that, and therefore you could say a lot of money as well. Um, then was the software side of things. Now, luckily for us, back when we were starting our careers, Ravi, building out a software or a product like this would have taken a lot. Today, everything is considerably easier. Everything is democratized, from your cloud infrastructure to libraries in codes. We had to stitch a lot of these together and create wherever it was necessary. But as a startup, we wanted to be in a agile hustle mentality. So we sort of picked up stuff from, we researched a lot, read a lot. We tried not to replicate things that were already done. So I would say the expenses for software were only frugally used where it was really necessary. And I'll tell you a couple of scenarios where it was really necessary. One was there is this really nice digital management tool called Canto, which allows you to very easily add uh, tags to a video automatically, program it, merge it with your Dropbox folder, your Google Drive folders, and then automatically pass it on to your S3 buckets for the app to sort of ingest those videos. Even though I say so publicly, Canto is expensive, but we wanted to invest. We spent a lot of time looking at it. We researched other competitor tools. We knew that Canto would ease up our job considerably, so we spent on it. Then were the partnerships. Now, to build a social video shoppable platform, we had to get content, right? So we spent a lot of time building a partnership with Lonely Planet because we knew that we wanted everything on our product to be licensed, every single thing. And I can proudly say, Ravi, that every single thing on our platform is either licensed or originally curated by us, from videos to written text to captions to inventory. Uh,
What do you
there's
mean by,
not.
what do you mean by everything was licensed, and why it is so important?
It is critically important because in today's day and age, pulling off content from the net is a 2-minute job. I can go through videos on Instagram and TikTok and download them. There are enough softwares. You don't even have to sort of write a code to do it. Enough softwares that will help you download those videos. There's We all did this. There's enough things you can write to crawl data about certain destinations. About so if you go to our app, the first thing you see is videos. Those videos could come from anywhere. On our platform, every single one of those videos is directly licensed from the creator. Uh, we extract those content. We get the content directly from them. We take the permission to actually edit it and add licensed music on it, not mainstream music, because mainstream music is not licensed. Sony charges you somewhere around 50,000 for an annual license of 100 mainstream music pieces. You there? Sorry, I think I was frozen for a minute.
No.
Okay, yeah. So Sony is expensive, but we made the contact through a friend in Dubai to try and get that too. But we didn't spend there because it was going to be expensive. We spent money on Epidemic and Artlist and uh, you know royalty free music basically. So the video you see on our app, the music that you see, the music is licensed, the video is licensed. You click
and
on
and
the app. Yeah.
and it was making financial sense to license original content.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because down the line, Ravi, if if you're pulling content from publicly available apps or sites, um, you'll be in trouble very soon. Before you hit it big, it's a matter of time. And GDPR, especially in Europe, is extremely strict.
Okay.
So we didn't want to get into any of that. So from the videos to the music to the written content, which is coming from Lonely Planet subsidiary Arrival Guides, um, to the inventory, which is coming from Viator, activities are coming from Viator, homes are coming from Plum Guide, hotels are coming from Booking.com. Every single one of these is licensed. So we spent a ton of time building these partnerships, building these relationships with these larger players. It required us to get on an insane number of calls showing them our prototype because by then we didn't have a product built out yet. But we showed them the prototype and we convinced them. We showed them our own backgrounds and convinced them, built that trust over time. And initially it was very tough, but over a period of time it became much easier because a good example is the strategy followed with content creators. We went after the biggest of them first. It took us a month or two to convince Hobo Piba to partner with us. Hobo Piba's got, I think, 3-4 million followers. She's
Sorry,
this
those who are not familiar, including me, who is Hobo Biba?
Hobo Piba is an influencer, travel influencer on TikTok and Instagram.
Okay.
Last I checked, she had like 3-4 million followers in both these platforms, and she puts out these amazing videos of places she visits. She and her partner, they travel, and they have sometimes they're very professional. They're not just any travel influencers. They're just very professional videographers and photographers. So we went after her first. Because her content was, we wanted to sort of, that's her, yes. We wanted to instill, or we wanted to trigger wanderlust in people with the very best of content. And the moment we signed her on, and her partner Dimitri is the person who sort of interacts with us. The moment we signed them on, it was easier to convince others. So next was Voyage Fox. Voyage Fox is again a couple, Natalie and Patrick.
So how did you
Um,
how did you convince them? How did you influence them to join you?
we showed the prototype, so we showed them very simply that, hey, this is the idea we have, and the idea is that there needs to be a platform where today, think of a typical travel influencer's lifestyle, Ravi. It's a lot of fun, but it can be pretty tough as well. They travel the whole world across the year, taking a few breaks in between. Their itinerary is determined by who invites them to cover content in their locations or destinations. Typically, these are hotels or tourism boards, um, who pay them to fly into that country or the hotel, spend a few days, shoot the best parts of the place, enjoy amazing dinners, um, shoot the content quickly, hand over the content, post it on their platforms, and then tata bye bye. Some of them even sign up to be like annual advisors to these people. But that's it. They're essentially freelancing, freelance content creators who have a huge following, and that's why they get invited. It's very lucrative. But imagine in a time like COVID, where no one's traveling, a lot of them faced a lot of difficulties because these people had given up day jobs to travel the world. They were following their passion, but they didn't have a steady stream of revenue. So our pitch to them was, today you earn entertainment value from a YouTube or an Instagram or a TikTok, and your other earnings come from when people invite you over. On our platform, you're going to earn lifetime royalty from inspirations you provide. So any video that is inspiring a traveler to book that hotel, you will earn a 5% commission. Um, they said, okay, wow, sounds super interesting, but how will you make it happen? How much time? And we told them, this is, we're building the product. It'll take time, but here's what it looks like. Here's the prototype. And so initially, we offered to pay a fixed cost for their videos, and we took them in bulk for destinations that we were targeting, especially in Europe. Over time, and we didn't just stop at that one transaction. With Hobo Piva, for example, we've had, I think, 10 to 12 different sets of videos coming in, because now wherever she travels, she sort of gives us an indication that, hey, I'm going here. Is there a specific place you want me to cover? So over a period of time, this transitioned from fixed cost videos to royalty generating videos. And we showed them real life examples that, hey, if I were to pay you amount X for your video, that X in 2 to 3 years can be 100X based on bookings inspired by this video. And I'm not kidding. I created a whole story, illustration of the why that is the case, the maths behind it. So they understood the math, but to be convinced took time. But once Hobo Piba was on board, Voyage, Fox, Florina, 15, 20 others came on board a lot more easily. And today they themselves are very big believers in the vision as well. So, which was very important for us.
Got it. You mentioned about building the team, and you said we wanted people to be financially secure and highly engaged.
Yeah.
Uh, First of all, what went into picking the right people? So, which roles were important for you at that stage of the company? And then you're saying if they had to be financially secure, so obviously you cannot pay them market price. What took you to influence them to join in this journey? Like, was it a promise of equity? Was it like, maybe you can shed some light there?
It's an interesting thing, Ravi. So, if you're familiar with the startup ecosystem in India, it's really boomed in the last 2 years with a lot of VC money coming in. So, whether for the right reasons or the wrong reasons, uh, more and more people on the engineering side have become uh, are more um, attracted by the promise of money rather than equity. Interestingly enough, and of course, there's a side gig always available. So many of them are doing multiple things at the same time. Um, I'll divide the recruitment into three parts. Part one, where it was easiest for us, was the data and intelligence, so the data science and AI kind of network. There, we were like convinced that we didn't need outside help. I used to lead a team that was filled with superstars. Vijay, Sunny came from those backgrounds in their McKinsey and IBM days. So we found a couple of really strong people already. That was the easier part, and they were part of our very early founding team, Vashishta and Deva, who I've mentioned before. Then came the difficult part of design. None of us had, we had not led design teams. We'd worked with designers before, but even while working with designers before, we not worked with B2C designers. So we needed to find someone, and we found one guy, Ashwin, who was who came from Make My Trip, Flipkart, and he had briefly worked for, I think, Make My Trip as well. Um, we needed that experience, and then later on, when we were looking at pulling in a graphic designer, we found Stuti. And Stuti had been working with Bloom Hotels, so she sort of understood the whole hospitality industry's design sentiments. When we were looking for design talent, we also looked at a couple of people from Ukraine, and we brought on board a lady named Dasha. Uh, Two reasons why we hired Dasha. One was we wanted our design sentiment to reflect uh, not just a Southeast Asian or an Asian mentality in the whole, uh, video and travel space. We wanted someone to challenge that thought process. So Dasha was an important person purely because of the background she possessed, purely because of the place she came from, the culture she came from, but also because Dasha was like an award-winning designer in Ukraine. She had she was now in the expert panel of, there's this national design competition Ukraine holds every year, and Dasha had won that previously and was now acting in their panel of judges. So we liked her approach. Ashwin was very impulsive. Dasha was extremely data-driven. So we had sort of a nice, professional marriage of these two design components. Stuti was sort of building out. If you see our Unravel language and design, there's a lot of thought given to why the colors are like that. It reflects the colors of, the aquatic ocean landscape and beaches. So Stuti brought that alive with her graphic design. Dasha and Ashwin brought that out in the product itself. So that was design. And then comes the engineering component, the development, right? You're back-end and front-end developers. And we were trying to build out the creators side of the dashboard first, so that influencers can upload their content and start to study how that content was doing on the app. And we were doing this on a website. We weren't building out the app side of things. We had, through a friend of ours, we had identified a couple of developers who were doing this. The idea was entirely out. We had designed it. But we found that during, every time we challenged them to do something different, something complex, they went back to this one guy, these couple of guys named Zishan and Vikash. So we asked them, who are these guys? I mean, why do you keep going back to them? I said, no, these are, we have this whole community of developers and these are our sort of leaders. So every time someone has a problem, we go reach out to them. So that led us to Vikash and Zishan, and we then reached out to them. We said, okay, forget hiring from outside. We need these guys on board. And so we started talking to them. We asked them to build out a couple of parts of the app, and we loved what we saw. They were fast, they were innovative, and you know how Indians have that jugaad mentality of getting things done. Very necessary for a startup in its early days, and they had the ability to sort of convert anything. You give them anything, even today. Even though today we're a much more well-oiled machine as a unit, but back then I remember we would give them and they would sort of churn it out in a matter of days. So next up was convincing Vikash and Zishan. How did we convince them? Yes, there was part ESOPs and there was part salary. We could not sort of compromise on their salary levels. So I can safely say, Ravi, that nobody's salary levels were strictly compromised. We recognized that that is a need, and that was the whole environment of the Indian startup ecosystem. We couldn't afford to just tell them that, hey, here's a bunch of ESOPs, and can you compromise on the salary? I wouldn't. I think we faced that, and I wouldn't advise doing that unless it's there's someone who's financially so secure that they're willing to take that upside bet. So that's how Vikas and Zishan came on board. Then we got Abhishek from the back end. We got Gaurav on our front end, and I think we were finally a full team, like a complete team by May or June of 2021.
And how
So
big was the team? So the full team was how many people now?
we have 15 people full time, and we have Midula was there on the content side from the very beginning. So she was one of our earliest. Midula is someone who's worked extensively with digital startups before. She's written a lot for them. So she was the easiest to sort of bring on board because she recognized the challenges of a startup ecosystem. And she was more excited about the idea. The other reason why it was easy to convince her was because Mridula herself is like this travel nomad. She's, we all have, Ravi, homes where we live and we're trying to raise families and doing a job. Mridula has this whole, bohemian spirit. She travels. She's usually in Thailand or some hidden part of the world, working from there, exploring on her own. So convincing her about Unravel was by far the easiest job. And then she brought on board Shubha, who's not full time with us, but Shubha is an accomplished published author. So a lot of the captions on the videos, which are pretty cool and quirky, right? Those come from Shubha. The language and tone on the branding comes from Midula and Stuti. So there was the content and creative side as well. So together, 15 people, I think we came together physically for the first time in October. We tried to bring everyone to Delhi, and we really gelled and launched our first beta product end of November. So that's how it stayed till then. We've not really tried to expand. We've wanted to be lean, but we wanted to be complete.
Okay, no, I love the fact that okay, you had your seed capital taken care of without compromises because it does not work in the long run. The team breaks if they're not happy, so you need to ensure that you have good seed capital for at least a year or so to build the product without compromise. And you said that
Right.
even the business model was not compromised. You did not want to scrape free data. You wanted to license it, so you want to build the right foundations so that it is taken seriously.
Yeah.
The 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 challenge with B2C always is there is less loyalty. There is absolutely zero loyalty from customers, right? So if which is different from B2B. That is, in B2B there is more stickiness. How do you account for this lack of loyalty? Because people tend to shift whoever offers a better experience and a better product. How did you account for this risk in taking a bet on a B2C product like this?
Yeah, that's where Vijay's sort of marketing genius comes into play. So Vijay was chief sales officer just before he moved to Unravel. He was chief sales officer at Crayon Data, which is also a successful startup based out of Singapore and UK. And he said that unlike how most products do it, we have to start building a community before we even launch our product. Most of us didn't quite get the concept. I mean, how do you build a legion of following without actually having a product out there? And he said that he'd been an Instagram influencer himself. So Vijay's part-time hobby is also still photography. He's got 12,000 followers on Instagram, and so he knew how social media worked in a personal sense. And he said we have to build a following because um, ultimately you're giving an experience through a product that feels like an extension of TikTok and Instagram. It should not feel any different. So if you and I go on to Unravel, I should continue to do this. And this is a word of advice for any startup thinking of the B2C space today. I mean, whether you're news, whether you're finance, if you don't have videos and if you don't have this, and if you're expecting people to type things out, you're so 5 years old, man. So he said, in order to build that community, we have to start before we launch our product. And we have to do that on social media. So he started one of the investments we made was in trying to get one person, one intern in UK and one intern here in India manage our social media channels. And we started this, I forget the exact date, but I think we started this in the early part of 2021. We started to post. So all the videos we were getting, raw videos we're getting from our content creator partners, we started to curate them and post them on our social media channels. Why? Because we're trying to get people to get used to those kinds of videos, those kinds of travel videos. There are many other players, by the way. But if you see our editing and if you see the kind of videos we focus on, they are meant to drive a booking intent. They're not meant to drive oh, this is a nice, good looking video and I'll swipe up again. They're meant to instill that feeling of, oh, what if I could go there in you? So all of our videos, you trace back our entire Instagram feed or TikTok feed, are meant to do just that. And these are again licensed videos. No copying from anywhere, no downloading from anywhere else. Licensed videos from our content creators. We started doing that earlier in 2021. Over a period of time, almost surprisingly but organically, today we stand at like 200,000 followers of these. Now, the expectation is that these 200,000, and especially after we launch Android as well, are going to make their way into the app the moment they feel the urge that they want to go to these places and plan easily, and, book easily. So the loyalty factor that you asked about, Ravi, comes from there, getting them used to a certain style of continuously swiping up, bookmarking ideas, and being able to book that very easily. Also, not yet happened, but will happen, is if you use the app, most travel platforms today like you said, start from scratch. So if I've booked a vacation in Prague last year, and I want to book a vacation in Berlin this year, no travel platform will recognize that you've been to Prague and this is what you did. And no travel platform will actually look at your browsing behavior on Instagram or TikTok, but Unravel will. So the next time you plan your vacation, after you've planned and browsed on Unravel, the app will recognize your intent. It'll recognize you're typically looking for kids' adventures. You're typically looking for a slightly more relaxed pace of your holidays. That is the advantage of loyalty. And over a period of time, if it's going to take away all the hassles of you having to start from scratch and with an app constantly learning over you, then you will want to go back to it and keep browsing and keep planning. So that is where the loyalty and trust will come from. The second factor, and I'll just close with this, is we all follow influencers today. We have our favorite influencers we follow on Instagram. Somewhere, brand loyalty may take years to build, but people's loyalty and trust you already have. So Ravi, if you are going somewhere today and I know you and I trust your vacation plans and I like to replicate how you travel,
Right.
if you are on Unravel and if I'm seeing that this is what you did in Prague, then I will have no hesitation to sort of replicate that. And that's what Unravel allows you to do. Allows you to follow and travel like the influencer who's showing you the video.
Does it also have an element of personalization? Because no matter how much I am convinced about an influencer,
Yeah.
my itinerary is going to be mine, right? So my choices are very unique. Every
Yes.
person choices. How does that get accounted into your app?
So first and foremost is when you open the app, you're swiping up, right? Um, Videos that you swipe up or videos, we have data to actually support this. There's this guy from Indianapolis who's been to our app 200 times in the last 45 days. Okay.
Wow.
We have theories about who he is, but we don't know who he is. But in those 200 odd sessions, it is abundantly clear about the kind of videos he likes watching, because we know that he spends there are certain videos he watches in loop. There are certain videos he just doesn't watch, he just swipes up, right? So that is a huge tell on what you're looking for, or what at least what excites you. The next level of tell is on the video screen there are 3-4 buttons, CTAs. The first of which is the big green explore now. And the moment you click that, if it's a hotels video you're watching, you start to see a hotels page which has curated information from APIs that we've partnered up with, reviews from Condé Nast, reviews from users on Google, more videos of that place. It's trying to compel you as to why you want to book that place. So this guy's seen a few of those. He's not seen that for all those videos. And then he saved a few videos for him to come back and see them again. He shared a few videos with friends that he wants his friends to see, or maybe his co-travelers to see. All of these data points come together to tell me more about this guy. Let's call him X from Indianapolis.
Right.
He's seen 200 videos. I know what he's seen, how much he's seen of. I know what he shared. I know what type of videos he's sharing. I know which ones he's clicked the CTA on. I know what type of itinerary he's tried to create. All of this is a very rich information for me to create a profile of yours and segment you into certain types of categories. I won't reveal how many categories we have of personalization, but the moment I am able to successfully do or categorize you or personalize you into a persona type, I know what you want, at least at a surface level. And then I'm able to recommend you videos and places and destinations and trips, or create your trips accordingly. So a trip for you to Berlin or Prague will look very different from a trip from me to Berlin and Prague, because let's say you might have you might be more interested in history, I might be more interested in arts and culture. So that will come into play in your feed. It will come into play in hotel recommendations, activity recommendations, home recommendations, as well as itinerary curation. So there is an element of personalization from the very beginning to your entire experience.
Got it. So this is about building loyalty with the customers. How about competitors? Like over time, I'm not now. Over time, what is it that you are building that is strengthening your competitive moat? What would that be?
Uh, so it's an interesting question, because Ravi, we're in competition with not just the travel platforms, But if you think about it, we're competing for minutes or seconds in everyone's daily life, from the Netflix and the TikTok and the Instagrams as well, right? So so competition is sometimes a two-way answer for me. So I'll try and break it up into both those.
Yeah,
With with
I meant what is the moat? What is the moat that you are creating against
Yeah.
competition?
So the whole idea of if you look at Gen Z today, uh, they are not people who want to keep quiet, and they are not people who are restricted by a single day job. They're looking for avenues to show off themselves as well as capitalize and monetize on those. I think our platform is the only one that allows them to do that just now. For anyone else to come in and build something similar will take a lot of time to get all the partnerships in place, as well as the IP coding codes in place to tie up all of them and serve it in a personalized fashion. And I can't think of anyone else who's doing even 40% of that today. So that will undoubtedly hold us in strong stead over the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years. Now, what we foresee beyond that is, see, over a period of time, tech gets easier. Like I was saying, right, 10 years back, if I were to build the same product, I would have had to go from door to door, knocking on people's door, allowing me access to this thing. APIs were not that common. So I fully envision that 5 years down the line, building Unravel will take lesser time. But by then, we will have a network or a community that will be considerably a million times harder to replicate. So it'll start with what we've built over the next few years. It will grow into what we have. And of course, there'll be evolutions in the product as well.
Got it. How do you come up with milestones for your startup? Say, okay, you invested in the product, but that is a continuous job. Okay, the
Correct.
product to be invested, but then you also need to draw a line saying that, okay, this is the point where we are confident of now making a buzz outside. And the milestones could also be revenue milestones. Milestones could also be fundraising milestones. So how did you decide the different stages of your journey? Maybe.
Sure. Excellent question, Ravi, because earlier when we worked in these larger organizations, they would trickle down from, let's say, the CEO, and you would be given goals and targets, and a lot easier then, right? Here we are setting the goals. So I think it was always necessary to have a slightly longer term vision, but not get too carried away by it, because you don't want to foresee, or you don't want to predict something that's too far out in the future and work towards that. So it's very necessary for you to keep it real. So yes, we have a vision, but we have a constantly evolving mission of what we want to do in the next 6 months. And that mission is broken down into what we called OKRs. And the OKRs concept is something we adopted very early. We run OKRs every quarter, every 3 months. Better part of last year, Ravi, was focused on product development, as you can imagine. So we would have OKRs, company level OKRs, that the 3 or 4 of us would sit and draw out for the next 3 months, and as well as why those were the OKRs. And then those company OKRs were given to the lead within each vertical, and we were asked. They were then asked that, hey, these are your certain, your specific segments OKRs. Break them out into your team's OKRs and tell us which one's achievable, which one's not achievable, what's doable, what's not doable. So while we decided the company level OKRs for every quarter, I think we wanted to empower the team to sort of challenge themselves and take ownership of their own OKRs. So that was broken down into team level, and also in certain days, on certain occasions, individual OKRs. This is a process we adopted, I think, early last year, early 2021. And we've tried to maintain that ever since. Complete full disclosure, we've not always met our OKRs every 3 months, but we've learned from it. The better part of 21 was focused on product and a little bit of social media, as well as a lot of partnerships and getting those in place. The better part of 2022 is now that we are publicly launched. It's been 2 months now since we've launched. So a lot of our KPIs, core KPIs, are more market driven, a little bit revenue driven. I wouldn't say revenue is a core part of what we intend to gain in the shorter term, but it's a necessary hygiene factor. We're more excited because we're data geeks. A lot of the KPIs are centered around uh, obviously how many people are coming in, and so far, we've only got organic installs on our iOS app. But how many are coming back on a regular basis? Are they coming back very frequently? Why are they coming back? What are they doing when they come back? But at a very basic level, how many are coming? And also, first layer of the funnel, right? So there's video. Next layer is video to booking page to finally booking. If those are the broad three levels, then how many are coming in here? How many are going to the next level? How many are going a level below that? So far, we've observed that this top layer to the next layer is conversion rate is typically 40%. And uh, we honestly don't know if 40% is the right number because there's no benchmark to compete it against. What we do know is when we started off, that number was 8%. So based on and we have a Friday meeting for the entire company where our product team presents these numbers, for everyone to sort of absorb and digest and go with the journey. And this number was 8%. And then the design team went back and made some very small changes to the design of the buttons on the video. And the 8% became 12%.
Nice.
And then we sort of made a few more changes to the recommendation engine driving the feed, and the 12% became 20%. So these are core metrics we follow, and a lot of our sprint decisions, sprint targets, are determined based on what this data is telling us. That's the stage we are in right now. Last year, same time, I don't think we had so much data to work on. So it was more like building out a software or a product, getting the right pieces together. Now it's completely data driven in terms of what we have. And yes, there are a few other product development milestones as well, because as you know, we don't have an Android app launched yet. So we're trying to launch Android very quickly. Also, we're very, very intent on making the hotel booking in-app, which today redirects you to a partner. We already have Amadeus's API onboarded. We're building that out. So I think it's split it between 40 to 50% of what was already planned, and the remaining 40 to 50% of what the data is telling us, taking decisions based on that.
So with the retention numbers, since you do not have benchmarks, um, does it? I mean, how confident does it make you feel, and how much control do you have on retention in improving the retention numbers?
That's a great question. So our retention among our core users uh, at a 4-week level uh, stands at around 50%, 50 to 52%. And now 4 weeks is a long time. So the first thing we're trying to convince ourselves is how do we get people back every day onto the app? But we also have to tell ourselves that for a video-based travel app, people may not come back every day. They will come back, however, when there's a, let's take an example, right? So my own vacation is next month. My next vacation is in July. Why? Because I have an anniversary coming up, and we take an annual trip then. We also take trips in other times of the year, but the July one is for sure. Now, because of this life event, I know that the 2 months or the 3 months leading up to it, I will be a lot more active on Unravel because I'm looking for ideas, because I'm looking to close out the itinerary. I'm also aware acutely that I will not go and book in my very first instance. It's going to be, you remember the 40%, those next levels will be, the percentage will go down, right? But it needs to happen for the whole booking to close out.
Right.
Will happen over 3-4. So far, all the bookings we've seen have happened over 3-4 sort of visits to the app. So there are two factors essentially driving it. Factor number one is, are there certain life events or are there triggers which are making me come back?
Right.
The other factor is the app is so exciting that I treat it as a little bit of entertainment and a
Right.
little bit of travel inspiration.
Right.
It is the latter we want to achieve,
Right.
because then it becomes more frequent, right? And today, a lot of Gen Zs are looking for entertainment-based shopping, not just in travel. I mean, there's this I think app named Douyin in China. I'm not pronouncing the name correctly, which has live stream shopping, and live stream shopping of various things. I mean, accessories, tech products. So what they do is, there's an influencer live on video, uh, trying to do video shopping. It's the TVC of our days, if you remember, the Noctols of our days, right? There would be a channel, one guy shouting and magic duster and this that. It's the same concept on TikTok. They are doing, I think their revenues in 2022 are 450 billion in China alone. So shoppable videos as a trend is huge. People want to be entertained while they're shopping. It's retail, it's digital retail therapy for them. So that entertainment quotient is big in travel as well. So we are actually wanting people to come back every day, watch those videos. You don't have to book everything every day. You can just save them for later. You can just share them with your friends, plant ideas in your co-travelers, partners. That is increasing over time within a certain segment where we're getting their sort of personalization right. And of course, there are other tricks in the book. There, you can send the right notifications at the right times, and the right sort of triggers or nudges at the right times, and build a habit. So, for instance, one of the simplest things and the oldest tricks in the book is, when do we typically explore such apps, right? Ravi, we do this before we go to sleep at night. We do this when we're taking a break from work during the day. It's very easy to note those times. Now, if you can provide a nudge, let's say there's a day when someone hasn't come in, and we know that you've browsed Cappadocia the last couple of days, there's an interest building in Turkey. Just send them a quick nudge. Hey, check out this gorgeous video of hot air balloon rides in Cappadocia, and maybe that's a video they haven't seen before. If not anything else, just to see the video, they're going to come back, and that's all. That is the only nudge you need to give. The rest will follow naturally. So, how do we benchmark ourselves? Right now, we're benchmarking ourselves against social media apps. We're not looking at travel apps. And social media apps are, retention-wise, day-wise retention-wise, still ahead of us. But I think we are sort of slowly building ourselves up there.
Got it. So the vision that you are building upon is, or the banking upon is, to create this as a social media platform where people,
Yes.
irrespective of whether they want to shop for a travel destination, they want to spend time looking for inspirational and travel videos. Which, for today, are there players who are already offering dedicated apps just for travel inspiration?
Not with videos, no.
Not with you.
No. Nobody does with the kind of videos we have. I think the other, we all do it on Instagram and TikTok,
Right.
subconsciously. If you look at my Instagram feed, it's filled with travel because that's what I'm researching all the time. But I'm sure if you have certain interests, like our advisor, Lewis Warner, who's founder and CEO of Founders Factory, he's been a travel guy himself because he's one of the earliest builders of lastminute.com. He is a huge surfing guy, right? And he was telling me, hey, Abhi, my feed is constantly about surfing, and the way I interact with my surfing buddies is I find videos and new places. I discover surfing on TikTok, places to see, and I share them with my friends who are in a WhatsApp group. Now imagine if all of that were to happen in the same platform. If Unravel recognizes Lewis as a surfing enthusiast, and it's constantly feeding him and creating communities of surfing enthusiasts.
Hmm.
They're all sharing constant videos over there about where they've been, where the hottest news is. So Unravel becomes a platform of discovery for that very niche space alone. But then surfing is his sort of travel theme. For me, it is typically food or cricket. For someone else, it is typically what children can do. So these little pockets of communities will start getting formed. Today, travel specifically, nobody's doing that, and definitely not two-way video-led uh, platform.
Got it. So you mentioned about launch. What does launch look like in a B2C product? Like, what does, like, do you have a marketing splash? Do you get yourself written in travel blogs, PR? What does launch look like, and what is a success? How was it for you in particular?
That's a great question. We've debated this for hours together. It was so our first idea of launch was a splash. We'd launch the product, we'd go berserk on social media, we'll ask all our influencer partners to go talk about Unravel, and we would have articles in newspapers and digital blogs and things like that. And I I think there's a question.
There's a
Um,
question from Shekhar Tiwatne. Unless it's already discussed, what are the plans, thoughts on web version of the app, or will it be mobile only for some time? So maybe you could also take some audience questions for
oh
more
yeah,
engagement,
absolutely.
and then
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can
totally.
come back to the launch.
To
Yeah,
the
do you
launch?
want to
Okay,
answer?
sure. Shekhar, thank you for listening in and thank you for the question. We are an app first, app only product right now. We intend to be app only. I think the progress will be iOS, Android, and web app. And a large part of that is it's a natural sequence, we believe, to find our true audience. If you think about it, if you think about users trust and users the time they spend on apps versus web, um, we are an experience led platform, right? So I don't think we want to be that website you find when you Google best deals for so and so place and you find that. Although I'm sure we'll become that someday, but we want you to come and engage, build a travel community, and really put your thoughts out there as a traveler. So we will be app first. We are racing ahead to try and get Android out after our iOS. And then, of course, we'll have to have a web app as well, because that ultimately the inflow of users will come more naturally from there. So that will happen, I think, in about 6 months' time. That's my honest estimate.
Cool. I think you have some friends, loyal friends, who are showing the support. Are they your friends?
Deva,
Vishal?
I've mentioned Deva a few times. I think he's going to thank me later.
And then
Good
there
to see
is
Deva.
Priya Bansal, and then there is Swarnim Sharma,
Thank you, Swarnim.
and then there is Gaurav Pandey. So
Thank
I
you,
think
Gaurav.
then there is Kara Vasishtha.
Yeah, Vashishta I've mentioned. Gaurav is also our lead iOS developer, actually.
Got
So
it.
yeah, so they're
Great.
listening in.
Let's come back to the launch then.
Sure.
So
Launch.
you planned to go berserk, you wanted to go all in, and then what happened? What changed?
So I think we read Andrew Chen's network effects. So which I know
Cold
you and
cold
Sandeep
start.
covered.
Cold start
Cold
problem.
start problem. Yeah. So we read the book, and it opened up a whole new world of ideas around what launch means for us. And I think the idea was, we launched, when was it? Late November, early December of last year. The product was in its beta phase, and then we didn't. it's not like we didn't make a splash. We announced it on social media. We encouraged, especially our followers, who we knew would sort of take to the app more naturally. We encouraged them to come check out the app. And of course, friends and family and known sort of validated beta testers of the app. And so since then, I mean, as you'd expect, the launch was, and of course, the influencers themselves, we asked them not to publicize it yet because we wanted the app to reach a stage where the utility value initially came through booking. So we wanted the app to reach a stage where at least some bookings were possible on the app before really making a splash. So late November, early December, I forget the date, but was our public beta launch. We announced it on our social media channels. We announced it on, and very naturally saw an inflow of users coming in. We started to speak to a lot of users. And I think going by Andrew's book, Ravi, we were trying to find our product market fit with what's our atomic network, right? And what's the network that truly believes and uses the product regularly. To our surprise, and maybe not such a surprise because a lot of the content was Europe focused initially. The videos were Europe focused. Our partners were from Europe, so we wanted to target inbound traffic into Europe. We found a lot of installs in India coming from Instagram, but we surprisingly found a lot of installs coming from UK and Europe. We only had TikTok running there. Later, a few days later, we learned that Apple had featured us, and therefore a lot of users on App Store were finding the app on App Store's homepage and downloading it to explore it. That little milestone sort of did two things for us. One was it obviously brought a lot more attention, and it sort of validated in our own minds that we had done something right. But the other thing it did was, I think it diluted the kind of audience we were targeting for our initial atomic network. And I'll explain why I'm saying diluting. Because and by now the data has proven it, that users coming from TikTok and Instagram have been far more engaged than users coming in by looking at that App Store feature. Because the intent of the users coming in from Instagram and TikTok is that they expect something similar. They've been following us for a while. They expect something similar. And so this app is taking them a few steps ahead, a little more forward in that journey of figuring out their next vacation. Whereas the explorers from App Store had no expectations, really. They just came and they found an app. Oh, okay, there's videos to watch, and okay, I'll see a few videos. And not a lot of them explored anymore. So it diluted it somewhat because the data sort of was a little spoiled by people with different intents. So whereas we wanted to really study what our originally intended users were doing. So that was beta launch. And then one of the feedback we heard, especially in February, Feb, March, was, hey, you're sort of taking me all the way there and leaving me high and dry. So when is bookings coming? So I think we took a very accelerated approach towards redirecting people from videos to hotels. Activities we already had in app. That part of the work was done. Homes was also easier because Plum Guide has amazing content, and even though we're redirecting, it doesn't feel that way. Hotels we're redirecting to an affiliate partner. We rushed into it simply because a lot of users were coming and telling us, we love this, we're wishlisting this, but we really want to book it. Can you help us offline or online? So we sort of rushed into it and accelerated that process, launched it, I think, early April or late March. So I would say that is, in essence, the launch of the product. But even there, we've not really done a splash.
Got it.
The splash will come when the network effects is possible. The network effects will be possible when two things will happen. One, if you find the app on Apple and if you share it with your close community of travelers or friends, they should all be able to see it and use it. Today, that's not happening because we don't have an Android version. You can only spread it among people on Apple. The second is when you go through the whole user experience, we want people to be inside the app and we want to be able to be studying that behavior or that flow. Right now, once you're redirected to our affiliate partner, we can't study your movements. Uh, and that leaves a gap in us understanding what is suiting you, what you're liking, what you're not liking. So the splash will come, all the marketing blitz and blitzscale will come, especially from our influencer partners who've got 10, 15 million followers of their own. That will come once the Android is there. That will come once the in-app hotel booking is there.
Right. Share with us your memories of your first organic transaction. Somebody actually made the purchase, and how was it?
It so the first known transaction was fun. The first known transaction was a friend looking to make a booking, and all we had to do was speak to them and tell them, oh great, yes, we have this, so go try it out on the app. So it was a lot of fun. uh, I think the most memorable one has to be early May, and this was someone making a booking at the Four Seasons in Jimbaran. This is Four Seasons Jimbaran, Bali, in Indonesia. And they booked, I think, 4 nights, 4 nights for some amount of like $3,000-4,000, and 5% of which has gone to our influencer partner. I think, Ravi, the most satisfactory part of solving a problem is when you see others benefit from it, not you yourself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So I think that day was like a huge sort of validation. That one transaction alone, because we knew that what we'd been telling our influencer partners over months had come to fruit
Right.
in one single transaction, and imagine there's potentially going to be many more. So in terms of satisfaction, in terms of that was by far the most. Someone found their dream holiday, and someone earned a reward for having influenced them. We are just the mediators in between, so that was the most satisfactory.
And the entire workflow is now tested and trialed. It works seamlessly. That means they are able to book, and the
Yeah.
money, the commission is seamlessly going to the influencer. So the entire workflow is seamless now, or does it need any intervention from your end?
There is one small intervention, in all fairness, which is the dashboard is there for us to see. The dashboard is there for them to see. The transaction itself is not automated. Once the transaction was automated and we don't have to play a role, then great. We're very cautious and very Indian or Desi in our mindset when it comes to money. So unless and until we are sort of 100% that everything's in order and we're giving the right amount, we waited to automate that. But that was one of the reasons why we didn't launch the bookings early as well, Ravi. We were very hesitant to charge money to our consumers or even relay back money to our content creators if we weren't sure that everything worked 100%. We wanted to test that out in the market first. So if we didn't feel comfortable charging money until March, because by then we were confident a lot of people were using the app and it was trusted, people were coming back. We felt confident about charging money for something. So right now, yeah, the whole thing works. That one part where I have to pay the content creator for what they've rightly earned. That part is still not automated.
Got it. How many transactions have happened by now?
I lost count, but as of last week or last month, I think they were 25 to 30, or a little more, I think.
And mostly this is through your social media followers and word of mouth.
Oh, This was largely social media followers. This was I don't have the percentages, not a big number anyway. Um, a few friends, of course, a few internal networks, of course, and that's how we know we'll build. But the interesting part here is in terms of distribution. We started out by having more activity bookings, frequency wise, numbers wise, more activity bookings, and then home bookings, and then hotel bookings. And it was not surprising to us because the experience of booking each of these on the app is in that order as well. Activities is the most seamless. Home looks gorgeous, but it's a bigger ticket amount. Hotels is a redirect, so we kind of anticipated that will be less. Over a period of time, over a period of time, meaning over the last 4 weeks or so, that has sort of flipped around. Hotel bookings have been far more. People checking out hotels have been far more. It's a bigger ticket item. We don't see how much time they spend after they're redirected, but we're able to see that 1,300 people have checked out vacation homes. And in the last 3 weeks alone, I think 600-700 have checked out hotels. So it's a good validation of the fact that if you're graduating from booking an activity to stay on the app, it tells us that the trust factor is going slightly up. Because when you're booking an activity on a new app, Ravi, I mean, we might not care as much. But when we're booking a place to stay, we'll think twice, right? We'll go back to our trusted sort of platforms. But the fact that more and more people are willing to take a step down the stay booking lane is a good sort of validation. And yes, now we have a certain set of users trusting us with the stays. That's important.
Got it. All right. So you mentioned about advisory. How crucial is the advisory? How do you pick your advisory? Again, what is the relationship in terms of, okay, do they also get equity? Maybe for startup founders who are clueless about picking advisory, could you shed some light there as well?
Oh, I wish I had a definitive answer, Ravi, but I'll share what we have in our case without revealing too many details. The first advisor we had was Rohan. Rohan is someone who's a bit of a veteran in the travel industry. He Cornell graduate in hospitality, then went on to work with Ratan Tata directly for Taj Group of Hotels. Um, uh, he was pretty instrumental in getting the Ambani weddings done as well. So he's been in hospitality all his life, and he was a close friend of Vijay's. So it was natural that we would vet the idea with him. He guided us in the early days and gave us ideas on which direction we should go into. Um, in his case, because he was like a close friend from before, he didn't. I'll admit we didn't sort of very clearly articulate what his gains would be. Now we have that in place, but we have that in place more because we brought Lewis on board, and Lewis we sort of met almost coincidentally through our fundraising efforts, and we were reaching out to Brent Hoberman. Brent is the founder of lastminute.com, and he's today he's the this thing of Founders Factory. He runs multiple other startups himself, and reached out to Brent and written him this note about what we're doing at Unravel. We try to reach out to people like Brent, and Brent sent a very funny note to Lewis copying me. He said, Lewis, remember, this is what we were trying to do at lastminute.com. So rings a bell, want to explore it. And then Lewis reached out. And Lewis spoke to us, and he was very, very welcoming, very, very, he loved the idea. He wanted to, oops, you there,
No,
Ravi?
I'm there. I just lost my camera. Let me fix it.
Oh,
You continue
should I
talking.
continue? Yeah, so Lewis loved the idea. He heard out our vision. He tried to understand who we were, where our strengths lay, why we were doing this, what was the purpose. And then Lewis sort of laid out, because of his, for the last 7 odd years, Lewis has been in this ecosystem. You still there? I think I lost Ravi. I don't know if anybody else is listening in.
Continue. You there, Abhi?
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was fixing my camera. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So Lewis actually laid out a framework, and he's been doing this with startups for the last 5, 7 years. And the framework was very clear with what would be the expectation from Lewis. He identified 2 or 3 core areas. One was founders coaching. We all love that because we'd already interacted with him, and we could, the idea of coaching obviously is that at the end of it, you feel like doubly productive and doubly energetic, right? And you clearly know which path you want to get into. So we had that with Lewis, so that was a no-brainer. We identified other areas he can influence us because of his strong network within startups as well as travel, to help us with partnerships we may need in the future. So he laid out everything point-wise very clearly. Then he laid out what would be sort of the interaction between him and us. Would it be on the basis of equity? Would it be on the basis of commission? Would it be something else? And there were 2, 3 ways of doing it. Number one is advisors typically take anywhere between 1 to 2% of equity if they're truly, truly embedded and truly, truly, involved with you. Because
How do
gen-
you ensure the involvement? And so, because this is again gray
laid
layer,
out,
right? It's laid out in contracts. Okay.
it's laid out in the contract very clearly.
Hmm.
And again, I mean, this was, how you and I may think it's a very, gray areas. Some you sort of sense who's really involved and not involved.
Right.
But Lewis made it crystal clear in terms of what it should be.
Right.
And in my research with similar advices, I found that equity is one part of it. They can also be a commission. They can be a monthly commission. In terms of how much time he would spend, monthly there would be a management board review. There would be 2 or 3 coaching sessions for each of the founders separately, as well as him always being available via email. And he gave us a grace period. He told us, I hope I'm not sort of revealing too much, but he told us, guys, if you don't believe I am of value to you 3, 4 months down the line, feel free to put a stop to it. And I'm not going to charge you anything. I'm invested. I love the idea. I think there's great potential in what you're doing, because you're trying to you're trying to marry inspiration with travel planning and booking. Uh, a few people have tried to do that, but I believe the time is now, because of the way people engage with videos. You guys are trying to take advantage of that. I think you have a great shot at it. So I'm going to help you. 3 months down the line, if you feel I'm not doing enough, feel free to sort of put a stop to it. And it's not like we'll stop being friends, but I will stop being a formal advisor to you. So I think laying out those points, Ravi, made it easier to interact with him, because we had all of that out of the way. We didn't have at the back of our minds, okay, he's helping us out. What do you think he expects? I mean, should we discuss it? Will it embarrass him if we offer him something? No, he made it crystal clear. And after that was out of the way, it became considerably easier. So, yeah, I mean, highly recommend having strategic, influential people from the industry as coaches as early as possible, I would say. But also build that boundary of knowing whether someone's being beneficial to you. If they're not being beneficial to you, then you don't owe them anything. It's your baby, it's your product at the end of the day. And incidentally, Lewis himself told us this. We didn't sort of he himself said, if you guys think this is useful, I mean, if you don't think it's useful, feel free to sort of put a stop to it. So we love that. I think
So,
that's how it should be.
so how many do you have as formal advisory?
2. So Rohan and Lewis are our 2 formal advisors, and Lewis is trying to speak to Brent next. So
Got it. Excellent. Next is fundraising. Okay, I know you are going through this angel fundraising, and there are different stages. Maybe you could explain how does fundraising work in different stages. I know you had a seed capital for 18 months.
Yep.
So you must be burning that, and then you also need to prepare for the next round of funds, whether you go the angel route or whether you go series route. Maybe you could you shed some light on, first of all, how did Unravel happen? Not Unravel. Upscalers happen. How did,
Upscalers.
yeah, how did you get to meet them? How were you scouting? Like, did you put the word out? Maybe on the dynamics of getting funding.
No, great question, and so many learnings, Ravi. You probably know this much better than I do. I'll just share my experiences.
Sure, yeah, yeah, go for it.
Uh, so uh, yeah, it's an interesting thing. We live in times where uh, you know money in the market. There's no shortage of money in the market. I mean, there's no shortage of capital. But I think we're also at a stage where it's becoming more and more well defined, which is a good thing. When I say well defined, I mean I'm referring to VC money for starters. I mean, I think well defined in the sense that 10 years back, VCs probably didn't have as many rules to follow. Uh, they, a lot of them may have gone with their gut. A lot of them bet against the tide. Today, VCs have a lot more capital at their disposal, and therefore a lot more rules they have to play by because they have an obligation to their LPs. So my first learning interacting with a lot of VCs, we've started both, Ravi. I mean, we know that VC raising takes time and it's a relationship built over time. So we've started both. We don't expect any VC mini. We didn't even. I mean, we knew it'll take 25, 30 conversations with a single VC to actually convert. So VC's process is more well defined. It's more rules based, and I think at the end of the day, it's not. They are putting someone else's money, right? So they have to have a mechanism that validates the whole process in their minds to convince themselves that they've taken the right decision. Angels, on the other hand, I think from their hearts. So I think angels think they're a lot more open with their questions because they are putting their own hard-earned money into it. They're backing a vision. They're not backing numbers. They're backing what they're looking at you. They're trying to assess: is this a good guy? Is this someone want to put my money on? And is his vision something that will, grow 100x in the next 3-4 years? It'll be $1 billion idea in the next few years. And angels can ask all sorts of questions which are not well defined. They don't have a book, a rules book that they play by, which is so much fun because uh, some angels will bet on something that is completely against the industry tide, and they'll bet simply because the idea resonates with them. They're interested in a certain field, or or something strikes them as as an opportunity. It's a bet they're taking at the end of the day. So my honest advice is obviously, like everyone says, find people who believe in your vision first and foremost. That even before you go speak to VCs, even before you go speak to anyone outside, uh, equip yourself, surround yourself with people who believe in your vision. Because if they start to because they'll be doing the job of selling this further, right, in your next rounds, in your future rounds, and if they don't believe in your vision today, if they're only going by, let's say, a boom, let's say, we, as an example, in February, on 2 particular days, Ravi, we had over 300-400 downloads. Why? Because Apple was featuring us. Now, if I went and told a VC on that day, not VC, let's say an angel investor on that day, hey, you know what, our product is booming, we've got these many downloads, we would probably have got quite a few people interested. But if they were going to invest in Unravel because there were 2 days of insane downloads and Apple featured us, I don't think it would be the right partnership for us. I think the right partnership is having people like you, Yuan, who understand the vision and are betting on the vision and are betting on us to execute on that vision. So surrounding yourself with that initial set of people, I think, is extremely key for your own sort of sanity. And how we met upscalers, second part of your question, is we were doing this reach out to a few, again, specific strategic investors in the space, and Yuan was one of them. So when it went to Yuan, or I think it went to Tim, I forgot. He came and checked out the app like a crazy user, and we didn't know who it was, and we didn't even know Tim was interested in the investment. We could see someone from France was like,
Would you repeat that again? So how was it? So you said you met some strategic investors, and that's how you got connected. So was it in the
we
London?
reached out. No, we reached out to. We had an original list of people that we wanted to reach out to.
Got it.
We reached out to Yuan, Tim, Brent was a part of that list. We created a list of people who were active investors, seed and pre-seed, in B2C ideas, especially in the video or travel space, and they were part of that list. So there was this simple, brief email, as you know, a lot of people recommend when you write cold emails, keep it very brief, very precise, one-line action item that we'd written. And I think it was Tim who reached out on LinkedIn and said, "Guys, you have an excellent idea. Want to chat immediately?" And we could see that someone from France, we didn't know it was Tim, we could see someone from France was continuously coming to the app and checking out the app and engaging with it. We made the connect later on that it was Tim. So we had a chat with Tim and we liked him instantly. He was so Tim, Tim is truly Gen Z, right? He's young guy, likes traveling all the time on social media. So we knew whether or not Tim and Yuan invested, we knew Tim as a user would be like very engaged. So Tim was like, he asked a bunch of questions about what our vision was, etc. Second conversation, he brought Yuan into the conversation, and Yuan asked us more pointed questions about what our ideas were, how we were doing, and what was the vision, where we were taking it next. And at the end of the call, Tim was like, "Yeah, I told Yuan we don't really need a conversation. We want to be involved with you guys. We love your idea. We love your product." And Yon was like, a big yes from our side. We are in. We're like, we're going to be your partners no matter what, and spread the message. Now, forget about the money and the amount of funds you're raising. The whole validation from the two of them, because they had seen the product, and we had spoken to quite a few angels before that also, and we couldn't really connect if they were truly checking out the product and understanding the vision. Like they were looking at the deck, they were looking at numbers, they were looking at the team, which is all the right things to do. But Tim and Yuan were one of the first few to really check out the product. And in future calls, Tim and Yuan were giving us ideas, a lot of which we had already thought to, some of which we had not thought through. So that's how this was built. This is, I think, early May or mid-May. And that's how we met you. That's how we met everyone at Upscalers.
Got it. So there's Angel, which would take care of, like, how do you differentiate between Angel and your Series A? Like, is this to buy time till the time the conversation matures with the VC, or how does it? What's the decision like?
Oh yeah. No, Series A will happen when we've got numbers. So even if someone looks at our idea and then looks at our traction, it becomes a no-brainer for them to invest. That's when we know we are Series A, and that'll have to be a VC. Right now, we're trying to bring on board people or angels who are betting on our vision and our execution. The numbers are, being a statistician, Ravi, even with the number of users we have, let's see, that's going to hit 10,000 by the end of this month. In iOS, we launch Android, which will again take off with many more users because there are more Android users than iOS. But we know in our heart of hearts as statisticians that to draw any substantial conclusions about million users from a base of a few thousand users is not really, fair. I mean, yes, you can make all your projections and your assumptions and all of that, but uh, today, if you're betting on Unravel and whoever's come on board, I know for a fact that they're taking the decision based on the vision and the product,
Got it.
and the people. So the VC will come when, I think with a runway of the next 4 months or so,
Got it.
when we have that kind of traction and a little bit of revenue. So just to add one single point, a few VCs, there have been two types of VC conversations also I've had. One is a VC who's told us very clearly that this is a VC in the US, that he's interested in us as long as we're becoming a successful social travel app. So he's interested in engagement numbers, retention numbers. He doesn't care about. He says bookings I don't care about for the next 2 years. It's a false indicator. But there have been the other kind of VCs who are saying that, hey, at the end of the day, I want to see you make bookings. So the moment you have a runway of 25, 30,000 a month in revenue, I'm in, and I'm happy to sort of lead the conversation. So there's both sides to it, and I think we as a company have to take a choice on which one we want to satisfy.
Got it. And how do you decide upon? I mean, you can choose not to answer this, but valuation conversations.
Ooh, yes. So
Are
there's
there
a whole.
guidelines? Like I know there are
I
negotiations.
can I can recommend the videos I've watched of Ashwath Damodaran to understand valuations, but that's more a theoretical exercise, I think, than anything. No, valuation conversations are, of course, you have your cash flow calculations to determine that. But like I was saying, there's very not enough data for anyone to do and defend a fair assessment of the valuation today. And I don't think it'll be for any startup that is pre-Series A. Even Series A, I would say for B2Bs, it's a lot easier because they have clear numbers, a certain set of clients, revenue traction. For a B2C, it's that much harder. So what do you do in a B2C? You look at competitors and what they were in their early stages, or your competitors who are at your early stages. And you try to fit it into that range in terms of whether you're doing slightly better or slightly worse than them. So that is how we've done it. We've looked at our immediate competition, and there are a few. Again, nobody who's betting as big on video, but there are similar players in both US and Europe. And Crunchbase will tell you what the amount they've raised is, and a simple basis of assumption of how much they would have diluted will tell you what their valuation is. So that told us where the range should be. That combined with the fact that I believe at least that we are much ahead of them because we've got all our legitimate legal licenses in place. We've got the end-to-end bookings in place after it's tried and tested. Absolutely no trouble with the regulation behind it. We've got the leanest possible, the most optimal possible team in place. And our burn rate, thanks, of course, to, though I say so publicly, but thanks, of course, to the right combination of people from India and other parts of the globe, is less than half of the others. And that I've validated this time from my trip to the US. So with a lean burn rate and lean team, with all the partnerships in place, with a product that we believe looks far better than most of our competition, if they've raised money at X, we believe we'll be slightly more. So that's how we've done our valuation.
Got it. So we have hit 2 hours already, and I know
Wow.
you are doing most of the talking. So I'm sensitive to that as well. It can sap your energy out. Just last question that I want to ask you is I forgot to ask is you mentioned when Apple picked your app featured your app. How did that happen, and how does that happen? Is it like do you sign up for such a program, or does it happen organically and then somebody lets you know from there? Could you explain how this Apple feature works?
It was a surprise, Ravi, when we found it. Like I said, there was this one day in February when we suddenly saw downloads become like 10 times of what they usually were. And we went scratching around to find why this was happening. And we were worried something wrong is actually happening. We found an article on this website called TapSmart. And we found that they had featured us in their top 3 apps to watch out for in 2022. And we said, wow, someone unknown has featured us, and they've hit the nail in terms of calling out the app as being this amazing discovery, and it takes the planning completely out of travel. I said, okay, maybe it's a marketing lesson for us. Blogs really work. And then something wasn't right, because it is possible, of course, to track where your downloads are coming from. And if it were coming from an external website, then it would have said that the source is a web referrer. But it kept telling us that the source is App Store browsing. So then Vijay was scrolling through his App Store, and he found that the app was featured on the homepage itself. And it was only in UK and Ireland, which is why we couldn't see it. So it happened the first few times it happened purely by accident. Then we started to read up how Apple features you, and we learned that Apple typically takes in invitations, so you have to write to them, and then they consider you, and
Which
then they decide
you did not. Which you did not.
which we did not. So Apple typically takes in, there's a form you have to fill, and Apple expects certain qualities and qualities and benchmarks in terms of design, in terms of execution. If they like it, 6 weeks after your application, they might feature you. So and this is in the developers forum, and then we read blogs about how to get your app featured on App Store, etc. And we realized there's a lot of effort that goes into it. What worked, I think, in our favor was that the design was very doodle led, and it was very it was very illustrative. And I think we realized that combined with our content, the design or the brand of the app sort of played a key role in being selected, but it happened purely naturally. But if someone wants to do it, there is a formal way of doing it. If you're lucky, you get discovered, and I suspect we got discovered when we released the beta app in December. But if you want to actively pursue it, there is a way. You can sort of put in your arguments. Apple is very supportive if you obviously feature more of Apple stuff, which is if you promote Apple Pay, if you promote App Store in any other way. Apple keeps launching features from time to time on App Store, new features. If you're making use of those, developer features, not an App Store. Apple keeps launching developer features. If you're using those developer features and doing something unique, they love that. But admittedly, I don't know that it was probably a combination of things we did, which is why it got featured.
So they have a list of guidelines on where you need
They
to
do.
check the boxes. Otherwise,
They do.
so one of your strength is the design, because this is a consumer product. You cannot compromise on the design, and Gen Z as well, right? So you need to
Correct.
cater to their sensibilities and their tastes. And great, excellent. Well, this I still had a lot of questions, but you know what? I'm being sensitive to Abhimanyu's time, and but yeah, I mean it's not the last time we are talking. We could again get
We
into.
should totally.
So
Totally, Ravi. No, thanks. You took me through a lot of areas that I actually had forgotten, and so thanks for covering everything, because you were bringing up questions around the launch. You were bringing up questions around the fundraising, about the partnerships, and why I these were I had almost forgotten about these. So you brought a lot of nostalgia back to life. So happy
I
to
know
share. Happy to do this again.
I'm plain curious, and yes, the stories change at different stages of a
Yeah.
startup, right? So yeah, once you have a VC round, once you have scale a lot more, it will have a different kind of conversation, and yeah, and things will get busier for you. So I would have to look for your empty calendars to have you on this chat
No,
again. But
touch wood. No, that won't be the case, Ravi. Had a lot of fun.
Excellent. Well, this brings us to the end of a fascinating conversation with Abhimanyu. Learned a lot. I haven't had such deep conversations with a B2C player per se, not as deeply as this. I have had 1 3 hour conversation. Yes, that was B2C as well, but this was a completely different kind of a conversation. Not just product, but all aspects of the business overall, and how an idea germinates and how it catches. It's like a virus that catches first your first few early backers, right? So you were the early backers, and then how this transforms. And I'll be very very keen to see how this journey eventually translates into something bigger. I will do, since also invested into this, also very passionate about this field. Yeah, I'll do my best to spread the word out, and I think our listeners are also, who are keen and listening to this, should do the same. Abhimanyu, if people want to reach out to you in some way, what is the best way to get to you?
Oh, happy to share my email ID for one. But for today's generation, I think the easiest way is to DM us on Instagram or TikTok. We are at unravel.app on both.
Unravel.app is your Insta, is it?
On Insta, yeah, unravel.app. I'll share the links with you.
Yeah, you could share it here so that I could,
Yeah.
or maybe let me just quickly share the screen here. Unravel.app. This is the one, right? So you have 42,000
Yes.
followers. That's looks. So does many of this content also be available, the same content on the app and on Insta? Is that how it is, or?
That is the idea. So the idea is that whatever you're seeing here will be on the app, and there'll be an extension in the sense that it'll allow you to uh, plan, book, save, wishlist, share everything. So we are so think of TikTok and Instagram as sort of the first 10-20% of what you'll experience on the app on Unravel.
Correct. Excellent. And if somebody DMs on Unravel app, they would be able to get to you, right?
Sure. DM us on Instagram, DM us on, you can post comments on TikTok, you can reach out to us on LinkedIn, and my own email ID as well. Always looking for people to reach out and share feedback. That's the only way we can really, learn more about how people are using it. So you've done quite a bit of those. There's actually I think, good place to learn.
I just opened
Sorry.
TikTok, and
Yeah.
then
So TikTok
TikTok
also, you
being, yeah, TikTok being TikTok. So you have a bigger followership on TikTok, right? 151K.
Yeah. Yeah. So our recommendation algorithm is actually built on TikTok's principles as well, because
Yes.
TikTok allows you to get to a much wider reach much faster.
Got
So
it.
you'll
Yes.
see we've got 150,000 odd, I think, followers on TikTok. But yeah, so yeah, sorry, I was saying before I forget, Ravi, we are offering free vouchers of $25 for just speaking to us, giving us feedback on the app, and
Oh,
an additional $50 if you make a booking of 100 or more. If you are just providing us with that feedback, we're just looking for 10 minutes of your time to capture your feedback after you've used the app, of course. And we're looking to learn. So sign up. There's absolutely nothing to lose except those 10 minutes of sharing your
so,
honest feedback.
so do you? Okay, that's great news for listeners. Do you also have geographical constraints, like where are you launched? Like which? There is a question from Pragati who says, are you people planning to launch it region wise or planning to launch it across the globe?
The app is global, so you can download it anywhere at all. I think the latest set of users are from Saudi. Um, so the app is global. You can download it anywhere you want. The destinations we target are determined based on where we partner up with content creators from. And our first sort of starting launch phase destination is inbound traffic to Europe. So Pragati, I don't know where in the world you are, but you can download the app. Region-wise planning. Yeah, so it's launched across the globe on iOS. You can download it if you have an Apple iPhone. If you have an Android iPhone, give us a month, you'll have it on Android as well. In terms of region, our focus more is on inbound traffic to Europe and a few tropical areas. There's Bali, there's Maldives, there's French Polynesia, there's parts of Middle East, a little bit of Mexico, but mostly inbound Europe right now. And we want to focus on that simply because we saw Europe as an opportunity for the largest domestic destination with rich and diverse this thing. But of course, needless to say, it will slowly expand later this year to all of Europe, parts of the US and Asia, and same time next year, I would imagine having over 10,000 destinations covered across the globe. So, but the app is available for download everywhere.
Excellent. Abhimanyu, thank you so much again and see you around.